Dear viewers, my name is Sendil Kumar and I'm heading an institution called TI Matriculation Higher Secondary School in Ambattur, Chennai, India. I'm very happy and delighted to be a part of this climate literacy conclave for South Asia. And especially on this topic, importance of climate literacy and climate education. See, our institution, of course, right from the inception, we have been giving importance to green practices. I still remember 25 years ago, we had started our biocompost using a concept called vermicomposting, using earthworms. So if you look at the sprawling area of our place, it's around 7.4 acres, and we built around 2 acres the classrooms, and the rest 5.4 acres left it for the play arena, at the same time greenery. And we have about 400 plants. And all these plants have been, for all these plants we have been using the compost, which we are generating through vermicomposting process. And we also have certain green building aspects, like we have a jolly system which in fact takes care of better thermo control, and probably the heat generation will be reduced and also generates better oxygen circulation. And a couple of years ago, in fact, to cope with environmental compliance, in fact, we have installed solar panels in our institution, which is, of course, supplementing the energy so that we will not be depleting the energy resources. And added to that, we also have a lot of greenery, and we have orchidarium. And orchidarium, of course, we have put it up on the trees. And this orchidarium takes care of, number one, a kind of amusement for our children. At the same time, it also speaks about how far we are taking care of the plants. And in addition to that, recently we have gone in for rainwater harvesting method. So this, of course, in fact, regenerate the groundwater level very well. So these practices, of course, in fact, coping with all the green practices of the organization, and hence in 2018 we had gone in for Green School Award with Ministry of Science and Environment, and we have been adjudged as the school which has been practicing green school practices. At the same time, in 2019, we had gone in for Climate Reality Project, where we have been placed at the silver level category. Very recently, the school also has commissioned sewage treatment plant, and the capacity of this sewage treatment plant is around 20 kiloliter per day. I'm very happy to share some of my thoughts on it. And to put it precise, I just wanted to take you through on 6 different values which I thought would be very important for all of us to follow. Imbibing the qualities at the self level, to understand the need and importance of cultural exchange to combat the climate crisis or climate change. Participate voluntarily in all activities that support the initiatives by the state on less carbon emission, energy conservation, recycling of waste, rainwater harvesting, solid waste management, no plastics, and many such practices. Very simple example which I can quote is the expectation of Chennai Corporation to segregate waste while we dispose it off. But in reality, the corporation has deployed a staff to clean up the streets every day morning. They do it religiously. So having a person to take care of collection of waste, we fail to segregate and dispose it off. This has to be looked into from our end. Value 2, influence people with imbibed values. When an individual feels that there is a conscious move from selfishness to selflessness and confident about the same thing, that is the point of influencing people with like-mindedness to cope with the values that an individual holds. 2 trends in value-based campaigning. I'm talking about the campaigning. Number 1, to promote message oriented towards self-transcendent values which are likely to resonate with members of the environmental organizations. And number 2, to identify values that target populations actually hold, whatever they are, and try to match campaign messages to those values. This strategy is called social marketing. Value 3, follow the norms and regulations released by the state government. Copying the norms and regulations released by the state government will have a greater impact in combating climate change or climate crisis. For example, the Green Tribunal Act emphasizes certain regulations for human inhabitations relating to environmental protection, conservation of forest, and other natural resources, and enforcement of any legal right related to environment. I'm very happy to share that in Chennai, apart from Zoological Park, Deer Park, Croc Bank, etc., are for us to study and understand different animal species, but at the same time, a huge area measuring around 5,930 acres has been allotted right at the center of the city for conservation of natural resources, especially the bird species called Nanmangalam Reserve Forest. More of such practices will become a reality only when a self-driven values become community values. We must be thanking naturalists. I would also quote an example of Pallikaranai Marsh, which is also right at the city, covering around 19,768 acres of marshy land, which attracts wetland birds. Value 4, sharing of resources at the global level. Sharing of resources at the global level is the national security and the security of mankind. The bilateral agreement happening between the nations in conservation and preservation of resources should be widespread across the globe. Value 5, to understand that it is too late to avoid climate change, but we can cope with it and avoid future consequences. We have an important duty right now to help each other to mitigate things which are in immediate danger. The poorest and the vulnerable group of life on earth need to be addressed first due to the climate change. We got to protect islands from rising sea levels, protect countries from flood, famine, hurricane, tornadoes, etc. Animal species face the threat of extinction due to climate change and loss of habitat. The climate change does affect the plant's growth pattern too and have an impact on water level. When there is a rise in carbon dioxide level and increased temperature, plants grow bigger in terms of leaf, shoot, and root. The indirect effect would be consumption of huge quantities of water to cope with the predominant growth, and there will be a scarcity of water for mankind. When the indictment of ecosystem continues, then the regular seasons, fresh water, endless fish, pollinators, minerals, and soil are next to impossible. Value 6, follow the norms, reduce, reuse, recycle, and refuse. The dire need for addressing climate change. It is people who are alive today, in particular the young people who live the consequences of our action. What we do now in the next few years will determine the care that we show for a few thousand years ahead. 2021 is a last chance for us to prevent the global warming. Perhaps COVID-19 has taught us a lot of lessons down. So thank you very much for this opportunity.